Good morning and welcome to another weekly edition of Ask an Integrative Doctor. My name is Talon Ellithorpe. I'm the practice manager of Tustin Longevity Center, and I'm joined with Dr. Rita Ellithorpe, our founder and medical director. As we do every week at 9:45 on Wednesdays here in Pacific time, we're looking for your questions. So in the comments section of the video off to the right, feel free to post any question you have, any health topic, and we'll get to those in the order that we can. And as always, we try to bring a little bit of information, current news, and updates to start us off. So today, what are we talking about, Doctor?
Well, I think everyone seems to be concerned, about the coronavirus.
Yeah, there's a lot to talk about that.
We had talked about that already. We've done 2 videos on that, and everyone does not want to get it, and so they want to learn about it. But they're not asking the question, what is the most likely cause of death for all Americans, all Western society?
Right.
And that's what they should be asking more questions about, because it's something that you'll probably have to deal with.
Right. Yeah, certainly we're worried about the coronavirus. There's a lot of news about it, but in all likelihood, are you and I probably going to come in contact with coronavirus? Probably not.
Probably not.
But what are we likely to come in contact with? What's the leading killers for health in the United States right now?
Heart disease. Heart disease. And the number 1 killer of women is heart disease. It's not breast cancer.
And specifically, it's cardiovascular disease in general, right? Because that could manifest as a stroke or a heart attack or something like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'd like to talk a little bit about, as our primer today, and of course any question they might have elsewise is welcome too. And the answers we give to questions and such are not, again, personal medical advice, but it's general for how would an integrative doctor approach these type of issues medically. I'd like to talk about an article that I came across.
Yes, please.
I'm always doing research. And one of the articles is put out by the American Cardiology Association, and this was published
This is pretty recent.
February 15th. No, this was February 15th, 2017.
Okay.
So it's 2 years old. However, no, it's 3 years old. But the problem we're facing is worse. And basically the title is Cardiovascular Disease Burden in the United States is expanding faster than expected. And I'm going to read that again. The cardiovascular disease burden in the United States is expanding faster than expected. And this is for young people too. You have to understand this is all people involved. Even the young people, even teenagers falling over on the football field and track and at school. And
so this isn't just an older person's disease that we need to worry about.
We're seeing it everywhere,
Okay.
and in alarming rates. So what they found in this article, I'm going to read some of the highlights. The growth in cardiovascular disease has outpaced expectations, reaching a prevalence of 41.5% in 2015. It's worse now. This is 15 years ahead of schedule because they're doing predictions of these things according to the American Heart Association. The disturbing update to its 2011 projections likely reflected worse than anticipated effects of rising obesity and earlier type 2 diabetes onset across the country. So they're linking it with sugar metabolism problems, diabetes, and obesity. And in short, the burden of cardiovascular disease is growing faster than our ability to combat it. The head, Dr. Stephen Hauser, who's the head of the American Heart Association, said, and the projections suggested will get worse.
Okay, well, this always reminds me that I'm so thankful that we live in the United States of America where we have some great advantages for acute care, right? If I'm going to get a heart attack, if I'm going to get cancer, this is a great place to be for that acute care. However, are there things that we can do about this today that we work with our patients on to actually make a difference on this?
Absolutely. I have a second article.
Okay.
And I'll bring up that, and it is more recent. I want to just add in a little item left on the original article. It said that about 45% of the total United States population, 131.2 million individuals, will have at least one cardiovascular condition in 2035.
It's almost half.
Half the population. Not surprisingly, the cost projection in direct fees for medical care and indirect losses of productivity and life years was estimated to rise too, from $555 billion in 2016 to $1.1 trillion in 2035. We are on a course that could bankrupt. And so we need to answer your question, Talon. Can we do something to turn this around? So this applies to from the teenager, adolescence, and how you're raising your kids health-wise, up to the older person. It's not just the person over 65. So this other article, to answer your question, Talon, is by the prestigious New England Journal of Medicine. And this article came out December 26, 2019, just a month or so ago. This article was written, published by Dr. Rafael DiCabo, C-A-B-O, PhD, and Mark Mattson as well. And in it, the title of this by the New England Journal of Medicine, December 26, 2019, The Effects of Intermittent Fasting on Health, Aging, and Disease.
Interesting, because that's something we've been talking about for quite some time. And
Yes.
now we're hearing in the New England Journal of Medicine, they're sort of affirming this. They're putting their stamp of approval on it. Okay.
Yes, this article represents the kiss to the movement of the low-carb, keto, that we've been doing for decades.
Right.
Okay, so
Right.
this is actually the wink of the American Medical Association and the American Heart Association saying for decades we've been on the right track. And so what they did in this article is I wanted to talk about a few of the exciting things that they're finding. And one of it is, normally you think that if you do the intermittent fasting, and intermittent fasting is typically, how do you do it, Talon?
So I generally don't eat breakfast.
Okay.
The first time I eat for the day is, the earliest would be around like 11 o'clock, 11:30, but often I'm not eating until 12 or 1 o'clock, and that's my first meal of the day. And then I make sure that I stop my eating. I get home and our priority is sit my family down, let's have a nice home-cooked meal, and we try to be done with dinner by about 6:30. And I squeeze all of my calories and food in there between that time of 11 at the earliest to 6:30 at the latest.
All right, so somewhere between a 6 and an 8 hour feeding time for you.
Exactly.
And that's one form of intermittent fasting. Other forms of intermittent fasting are out there. There's what is called OMAD, a 1 meal a day, where all the feeding is done within a 1 hour or 2 hour framework of time. Other types of fasting would be having a day where you do totally no food for 24 hours. There are prolonged fasts that go beyond that come and go. I take a 5-day fast twice a year. Well, I only have a water and black coffee fast for 5 days. So this concept of intermittent fasting, we usually thought that what this is for weight loss or reducing free radical stress of eating. Because when you eat, that puts work on your system and creates free radicals to burn all that energy you're taking in. Like putting logs of fire into a fireplace, you're creating the heat, free radicals, and food creates free radicals. But there's more. The response now, and all the research is showing that there are what we call adaptive cellular responses that are integrated between and within organs in a manner that improves glucose regulation, increased stress resistance, and suppresses inflammation. Now that might not sound exciting to you, but I'd like to talk to you a little bit about those three.
Yeah, maybe in layman's terms you can explain to us, what does that mean? Why is that so good?
Well, this is saying if you give your body a break between eating and not eating, you're doing a thing called metabolic switching. You're turning on the machinery to eat and process that energy load, the immunological challenges, bacteria, things that might be in it, and then you stop it. And then your body has what we call a purge, a cleaning effect. It's like you clog up your system with work and fuel and calories and immune challenges, and then you purge them by doing that. And when you do that, your cells are proven to improve DNA repair. How's that for slowing your aging and risk of cancer? Number 2, you make better quality proteins, better skin, better muscle. The quality of the anabolic and catabolic phases of metabolism is improved. How about another one? Energy. Your mitochondria, the little batteries inside your cell matrices, the cytosol of the cell, you can actually make more energy batteries. Mitochondria go up. How about more? It reduces inflammation, okay?
Inflammation being really the root of all disease.
Exactly.
Okay.
It's the fire. It is the fire. And then how about it helps you create more antioxidant defense. You know, everyone's talking about vitamin C, vitamin E, all these antioxidants for defending against what? Well, it improves your antioxidant capacity to defend itself from the burden of eating.
Right.
And then lastly, they were talking about research that they've done. They were doing animal studies. They were looking at other studies in this article and human studies. And the last thing is autophagy. And autophagy, remember the Nobel Prize was given for autophagy in 2016. And so this...
That's programmed cell death, right?
Exactly. And why do you want a cell to die?
So that you can make a brand new young one, right?
Exactly, to repair and replace, yeah. So this adaptive cellular response also is associated with lower blood sugar and glucose metabolism management. And I said reduced inflammation. And it improves the stress resistance, you know, to stress. So you can handle stress better because you make better DNA. You can handle stress better because you have a better antioxidant level of protection. You can handle stress better because you make better protein for your muscle on your workout. You can handle stress better because you have more energy, more mitochondria. You can handle stress better because you're cleaning out the old injured cells and repurposing them. So this is what they're finding clearly, and that's why they are finally endorsing this, which we've been doing, thank the Lord. So this metabolic switching, eating, fueling, and then cleaning and unclogging your system. So you're going from bringing in fuel and then emptying out and cleaning out and see what you did and built with that fuel.
How does this relate to what we started talking about, cardiovascular disease? Oh,
well, further in the article, one of the things they said that you cannot have a 3 or 6 meal a day lifestyle because the 3 meal a day lifestyle shuts off your ability to make more mitochondria, to go into autophagy and clean up your internal house. You make less quality proteins. You have less DNA repair. And you have more oxidative vulnerability to damage if you're eating multiple times a day and late at night.
But wait a second. I remember in school I was raised or taught breakfast is the most important meal of the day. To have your breakfast so you can do good on your tests. Bring snacks. Eat multiple times throughout the day so that you constantly have energy coming in. How does this relate to that? Is that incorrect thinking? Have we learned more? What's right?
We are a victim of commercial TV social marketing. Okay, that was marketing largely by the cereal industry since the early 1920s, 30s, you know?
Okay.
So this concept of what you should eat and how often you should eat is marketing. It's just marketing.
There really isn't any published medical research showing it's beneficial to have 5, 6, 7 meals a day.
It's absolutely unpublished, you know, and we now have the hard science saying that is damaging. That is absolutely damaging, that eating multiple times a day, eating late at night will deny you all these wonderful things that intermittent fasting does. And this goes along with what mankind, nobody had, meals unless you were a king or a queen or royalty. People usually only ate one good meal a day, you know.
Makes sense.
In the past, throughout thousands of years. The other thing is there's research showing cognition, having a better mental state. Pericles, one of the old Greek mathematicians, insisted all his students come to him in a fasted state, otherwise he would not let them in the class, to improve mental concentration.
Right.
And then the research shows from animal studies, mouse going through mazes, the mouse that didn't eat does the maze better. The mouse that ate kind of gets confused.
Come to think of it, I usually feel kind of sluggish after it's certainly a big meal.
Yeah.
I feel tired, I want to take a nap, my brain slows down. That's really interesting. I've been hearing a lot of the news about psychological research and being effective in the top of your game, and they're looking at things like multitasking and saying, you know what, maybe humans aren't so good, and the pursuit of being a great multitasker isn't realistic. And maybe the same is true for our bodies, that when we're trying to eat food and perform functions and have mental clarity and energy, that it's almost like there's this on-off switch. We should be doing one or doing the other.
Yeah, that's the metabolic switching that they're talking about in the New England Journal of Medicine. There, you need that off time. And you asked, heart disease, we brought this up with heart disease, how will this impact it? Well, here's the clinical applications. How about a longer lifespan? Okay. How about reducing obesity? How about reducing type 2 diabetes? How about reducing cardiovascular disease? How about reducing cancer? How about reducing neurodegenerative disease? How about reducing asthma? How about reducing multiple sclerosis? How about reducing arthritis? How about having better surgical outcomes and even better gut health, because you're giving your gut system a great break.
Wow, that's a lot of benefits.
Yeah. And
are we seeing this with our patients here at this center?
Absolutely. I have been here almost 20 years now at this site, and I would say, our population is, what percent is Medicare, would you say, that I have?
About 20%.
All right, and then what percent of our patients do you think are probably above 40 and up?
That's closer to probably around 65-70%.
All right. So if I'm a general practice and our 5 doctors here are general practice, we should see the prevalence of the incidence of how many heart attacks occur, or strokes occur, or new onset diabetes, which are exploding, cancer diagnosis.
Right.
How often do you hear of our patients coming down with something?
It is so rare, and when we do, it's a shock. Can you believe so-and-so had a heart attack? Can you believe so-and-so? We know them by name. It's that rare.
That's rare. And so we've already lived out what is in the New England Journal of Medicine. Our clinic has already, praised the Lord, has already lived out what the New England Journal of Medicine is predicting, along with many other doctors who have been doing functional medicine. And I'm just standing on the shoulders of many wonderful, good doctors before me with the therapies that we're providing. And one of them is, they even made a poem, one of my patients made a poem we put in our IV suite about the no-carb doctor.
Yeah.
I'm that doctor. So.
That's right. Doctor, we have a question that came in the comments. Gurjeet asked, does bulletproof coffee break a fast? And if you're not familiar with bulletproof coffee, it's sort of the new trend of taking a fat, usually a butter, sometimes an MCT, medium chain triglyceride, mixing that into your coffee. So no sugars, no carbs, some fat with your coffee. Does that break a fast?
Technically, yes. The answer is technically yes, according to the way they set up these studies. But practically, no. And, I'm going to say fat will not raise your insulin. And this is really, ladies and gentlemen, all about stimulating a insulin response. And how long have we been doing insulin studies here, Talon?
Since we started.
Decades, and even before I came here.
Right.
Yeah. So you need to know that behind that blood sugar that they say is good enough, there's an insulin hidden damage that's occurring, and your body is working hard to keep your blood sugars under control. You've got to get your doctors to do insulin, and even postprandial or after eating would be even more revealing.
Right. And this would be a subject for a whole nother conversation, but The design behind the bulletproof or the fat coffee in the morning is, since there are no carbs, no sugar, we're not stimulating that insulin spike, but we are providing fats which get broken down into ketones, which you've heard of the ketogenic diet, ketogenic lifestyle.
Right.
This is all still keeping you in that window of time where we're not stimulating new cancer cell growth or anything like that, right?
Right. Notice in this article in the New England Journal of Medicine, they did list clinical applications is management or prevention of cancer, because cancer cells feed exclusively on an anaerobic fermentative, they eat sugar, just like wine and beer are anaerobic, sealed up.
And they can only survive off of that.
Only on sugar.
Where we've learned now, the thought used to be, well, your brain depends on glucose. You've got to give now we know that we can use ketones as another source of energy.
Exactly, and actually it is very calming to the brain.
Mm-hmm.
I find that when I go to sleep, being in a ketogenic state, I can sleep very, very well. My brain is much more calm that way. And the ketogenic low-carb diet was used to treat seizures.
That's right, seizures with children.
Yeah, that were unresponsive to standard therapy and anti-seizure medicines. So living in ketosis is not the same thing as diabetic ketoacidosis. That's a whole another creature, very rare. We're talking about ketosis. We are designed to do this metabolic switching from feasting to fasting. Feasting to fasting. And even a bear, even the animal kingdom does this. They have feasting and fasting. And we tell you, back off of your social media marketing commercial triggers. They just want you to eat and buy their stuff. We want you to eat less in a confined number of hours, and to eat at home primarily, and get the processed foods where all these hidden chemicals, dyes, preservatives, genetic features are out of it, and these rotten vegetable oil are in these processed foods, and hidden sugars. We'd like you to eat real food and eat it in a narrower period of time.
Right. Now, practically speaking, since we're talking about intermittent fasting, and there's different definitions of different types of fasts, right? A pure fast would just be water and nothing else. It isn't easy for someone who's been used to eating 6 or 7 times a day to go cold turkey to switch into something, is it? Because I know the concept, or when I first started intermittent fasting, it wasn't the easiest thing in the world for me to give up breakfast, and I felt a little bit hungry, but it gets better, right?
Right, yes, definitely. So, I didn't start suddenly with a 5-day fast. Mm-hmm. I first started by skipping my breakfasts and only having a lunch and an early dinner. And so I lived in that feature, and we asked patients to do that. Then eventually, maybe within a month, you can start going to a 24-hour fast where you go from dinner the night before to dinner the next day. So that's 24 hours, and you're turning on all these self-repair, anti-aging, anti-cancer, anti-cardiovascular, anti-diabetic phenomena in your body. And then you might want to later on try a 2-day fast on another time of your life where you're doing well. We usually see people who go past the 48 hours without eating have no more hunger. And the reason is because your hunger ghrelin hormone signals diminish with time. And you by day 3, 4, 5, I could go day 6 and 7, I just choose not to do that.
Excellent. Anything else back to cardiovascular disease that we want to mention or tie into this as we wrap up?
Well, I want to point out that one of the criticisms in the New England Journal of Medicine was the fact that the doctors, researchers, the volume of science is there. We have the clinical experience here for decades with our patients. It works. But the culture and marketing, they admitted, are what your problems are. So when you go home, you're going to have to sit there between you, yourself, and God and say, look at, how am I going to address the pressures to eat processed food, to face going through some discomfort of being hungry by giving up breakfast, knowing that you will be fine. and they basically said knowledge and doctors have to inspire their patients. Mm-hmm. And we put our patients here first in the sense that we don't have 10, 15-minute appointments. We have 30-minute, 60-minute appointments, and we'll see, 6 or 8 a day. And I am in a little classroom with them, trying to inspire them, tracking things to show why it is the right thing to do. And then they feel better, they feel proud of themselves, and we do group detoxing, like we just finished our detox. How did that go?
Oh, it went wonderful. We got such great feedback from the patients. I did it, you did it, we had a couple other doctors, and I think in total about 12 staff that did a lot. Yeah, it went wonderful, and we're already planning the next one.
And that one, the detox did start with a modified fast.
It did. That's right, the first 2 days.
Yeah. So it all involves giving your gut a rest.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I felt so great after, especially day 3 on. Wow, that made a big difference. Mm-hmm. Okay, well, I'm not seeing any other questions in at the moment. We do this every Wednesday at 9:45 a.m. Pacific time. I'm here with one of our doctors, usually Dr. Ellithorpe. We look forward to your questions. I also want to mention, if you're finding value in this, please do share it with your friends and family. That'll let us know if we're seeing the views continue to grow, that this is something that we'll keep investing in and doing. And make sure that you look down there and hit the subscribe button. You'll have to create or connect your Gmail, Google account to it, but that'll help us grow so that we can reach more and teach more.
When are we going to do our next detox, Talon?
Well, we have a waiting list for patients that I promised I would give first access to, but it's looking towards the end of the month, the last Thursday of the month. I think that's somewhere around the 26th or 27th. Okay. We will have the kickoff presentation, and then we will start our 7-day detox together right after that, right around the beginning of March.
And that's because we know that on Valentine's Day, everyone's going to eat your chocolates.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, I certainly got a special night planned. All right, well, thanks for joining us. We look for you next week, and bring your questions. Until then, take care. Be well.